The morning air was sharp and silver as it rolled over the military base, cutting through rows of hangars and echoing off metal walls. Engines hummed somewhere in the distance, and boots struck pavement in rhythm, steady, purposeful, precise. At the gate, a young woman walked through the fog. She carried only a small duffel and wore an old flight jacket faded by time. Her clearance ID looked real, but the date on it didn't. It was from another decade. The guard frowned, hesitating. "Ma'am, this clearance hasn't been active for years." She didn't argue. She simply said, "It'll clear. Just give it a moment," and somehow it did. Within minutes, the news reached the Admiral's office. An unauthorized visitor with old clearance had entered the base. The Admiral, tired from back-to-back briefings, waved a hand dismissively. "Scored her out." Probably a retired tech who got nostalgic. But before that order reached the gate, something happened. The woman had stopped near Hangar 9, the old fighter bay, long since decommissioned. A group of Navy SEALs were loading gear into a truck nearby, their laughter echoing off the concrete. But the moment she walked past, their voices faded. One of them noticed the small, ghost-gray patch on her sleeve. The stitching was nearly worn away, but the name still read clear as day. Raven. The air changed instantly. Every man there froze. Not because they recognized her face, but because they recognized the call sign. Raven. A name spoken only in whispers, buried in old mission reports. The pilot who once flew her squadron straight into an ambush to rescue a stranded SEAL unit. The pilot who got them all out, but never returned. The files had said she was gone. Killed in action. But there she was, standing on the same ground she left years ago, calm, alive, and silent. When the Admiral arrived, his irritation melted into disbelief. He stared at her, the faint scar along her jaw, the faded silver wings on her jacket, and whispered, "It can't be." But it was. Captain Alara, Raven Hayes, the Air Force's most skilled F-22 pilot, presumed dead 7 years ago, was standing before him. He dismissed the guards. There were no questions at first, no interrogation, no demands. Just silence. The kind of silence that only exists when a ghost walks back into the world of the living. Over the next few days, the truth came out in fragments. Raven had ejected during that last mission, deep in hostile territory, with no beacon, no radio, and no chance of rescue. She had survived alone for weeks, crawling through burned terrain, hiding by day, moving by night, until she was finally found. When she returned home, her body had healed, but her spirit hadn't. The military called it recovery. She called it quiet, so she disappeared. No medals, no interviews, just silence. And now, years later, she was back, not to reclaim glory, not for recognition, but to deliver a letter. It was from one of the SEALs she had saved, a man named Lieutenant Cole Barrett, who had since passed away. He had written her name before he died, thanking her for giving him a second chance at life, saying that his family had lived every day in gratitude for what she had done. She came only to return that letter to his unit, to the brothers who had served beside him. That was all. When the Admiral understood, his voice softened. "There's a ceremony tonight," he said quietly. "Stay. You belong here more than anyone." She hesitated, but agreed. That evening, as the sun dipped low and the flag rose high against the burning sky, Raven stood among the ranks of soldiers once again. The SEALs who had been laughing that morning now stood at attention, their hands trembling slightly as they recognized her. When the Admiral spoke her name aloud, Captain Alara Hayes, call sign Raven, the entire formation turned toward her and saluted, not because of rank, not because of order, but because of what she represented: courage, sacrifice, survival. And as the wind moved across the tarmac, catching the edges of the flag, someone whispered down the line, "That's Raven." The word rippled like electricity. Every soldier stood straighter. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was sacred. Later that night, she sat alone by the runway, watching 2 jets climb into the twilight sky. Their afterburners painted streaks of fire across the horizon, the same sky she once called home. For the first time in years, she smiled, because she realized she hadn't come back to say goodbye. She had come back to remember that her story wasn't over. It had simply changed form. Some heroes live in the air. Others learn to walk on the ground again, carrying the sky inside them.